Hello everyone, welcome to BhadraIASAcademy. So let us continue one topic a day, our discussion. So today we are going to discuss a recent interesting issue, that is the Ebola outbreak. So अभी क्या हुआ, G7 का अभी जो मीटिंग हुआ है 2-3 दिन के पहले, तो इस G7 मीटिंग में इसका भी डिस्कशन हुआ था. तो फिर G7 कंट्रीज ने बोला दैट वी नीड टू कंसीडर दिस हेल्थ इश्यू सीरियसली, एंड G7 कंट्रीज ने इसको सपोर्ट देने को डिसीजन लिया है, राइट. सो इफ यू लुक एट द न्यूज, दैट इज द जस्ट यस्टरडे डे बिफोर का न्यूज, the European Union and the G7 they pledged support for the Ebola outbreak control. So the G7 leaders ने क्या बोला है, ये जो Ebola outbreak है, it is a global concern, health concern. So the EU's Ursula von der Leyen also said that health security is a shared security, okay, because the death toll is increasing. Therefore the G7 and the EU together, they have agreed that they will pledge some financial and medical help for the Ebola control. So now if you look at our country also, India also has already given help, and India extended support for the medical help and all given in African region, basically the Congo area where the Ebola outbreak took place, right. So if you look at the news as per here, India has extended urgent medical assistance to the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Africa, that is the CDC, right, to support the Ebola response efforts. Basically the African Union has requested that some help finance is required, so they are now extending the help for this controlling of Ebola outbreak, okay. So in this context, if you look at here, where is this Ebola outbreak actually? It is somewhere this side, you know, this is the main area, that the Congo area where the outbreak took place. So now if you look at the problem, we go back to little bit of history. The Ebola was first identified in 1976, okay. So Ebola is what? It's a deadly viral disease. It is spread mainly through bodily fluids, okay. So anybody comes in contact with the bodily fluids, they could get this virus, okay. So now this time जो outbreak हुआ है, this is the 17th Ebola outbreak in the Central African country, and the deadliest one was between 2018 and 20, जिसमें more than 2,300 people died, okay. So the Ebola outbreak now and then takes place, and therefore it is a matter of serious concern. How do we control this outbreak which now and then takes place? इसकी वजह से क्या होता है, ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, टूरिज्म, ये सब चीज की इम्पैक्ट ज्यादा हो जाता है, राइट. सो नाउ लेट अस लुक एट सम डिटेल्स अबाउट दिस इबोला, right. Now the recent Ebola outbreak in some parts of Africa, it has become a major issue. It is caused by the Ebola virus, as I already mentioned. It is transmitted through direct contact with bodily fluids of either the infected person or infected animals. They say mostly the fruit bats, they also create this transmission. So now basically what kind of symptoms do we observe? Fever, vomiting, bleeding, organ failure. These are very common, okay. So the persons who are affected can also be, fatal. The result can be very fatal, okay. That means it can lead to death, that is the danger of this virus outbreak, okay. So the World Health Organization is the one which is monitoring the situation, and they have declared it as a very serious issue and a very serious concern, okay. So from that perspective, exam में this Ebola related some question can come from the science and tech या disease control point of view. Now Ebola ये जो वायरस है, it outbreak जो हुआ है, इसका ट्रांसमिशन कैसे होते हैं? So if you look at here, The transmission can be from wild animals to humans. So the Ebola virus is believed to spread initially from the infected wild animals like the fruit bats, that is where naturally the virus is there. Then monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzees, there are various theories about that. Also human to human transmission, this is the danger. It basically spreads when you have a close contact with the infected persons, like blood, saliva, vomit, sweat, urine, semen, etc. It can lead to the transmission from one person to another person. Okay. Also the traditional burial practices where the body comes in touch with the people can be a cause. And lack of public awareness, people not taking enough precaution, that is another reason why the transmission is taking place. Okay, so therefore the outbreak now and then takes place because somebody or the other comes in contact with the virus. Okay, now what are the serious effects when you talk about the Ebola virus? Why this is important from even exam perspective? Now the first thing is it can lead to death, high fatality rate, somewhere 25% to 90% chances the persons can die. And the symptoms are internal bleeding, fever, organ failures, shock, etc. Economic, what happens? What is the economic impact? It can reduce the foreign trade. As I mentioned in the beginning, tourism is the main concern. And if people are infected, working together, doing agriculture, all this becomes impossible because the infection can be a problem, right? Also, global investment also gets affected. Nobody wants to invest in affected areas, etc. So therefore, you see the economy finally will suffer if there is a serious issue. Social effects are fear among the people, social isolation of some people, like what happened in India during COVID. So some people can go into depression as well as, so children can be orphaned. So Ebola therefore can have a multiple impact on economy, society, as well as the health concerns of the government. So hospitals also becomes overcrowded, like we had experience during COVID, and resources are diverted from other disease control, so there is a financial issue as well. Government has to manage the finances to deal with this kind of a emergency. Therefore, Ebola virus threat is something seen to be serious. Before it spreads to different parts of the world, the effort is to control and contain it within Africa, eliminate it, right? Now, how does it affect India? हमारा देश में इसका इफेक्ट क्या है? So if you look at the India's foreign ministers meeting was affected by the Ebola outbreak. Like India-Africa Forum Summit was supposed to be held, right? It was scheduled to be held in New Delhi. But what happened? Because of this Ebola outbreak, it has been postponed indefinitely. So the meeting has been called off. And this is the second time the India-Africa Forum meeting has been postponed due to Ebola virus. So therefore, if you see, it has some impact on even international meetings, etc. Then the International Big Cat Alliance meeting, which was supposed to be held, that is also called up. So India also called off the meeting, it was not able to organize because some delegates supposed to arrive from the African nations, right? So the Directorate General of Civil Aviation also mandated strict flight screening, checking travelers from where they are coming, and to make sure that there is no spread of this virus in India. So therefore, you see, this kind of topics can be part of our exam question, right? So we need to be familiar with this. So now if you look at the questions perspective, I have given some multiple choice questions also. Ebola virus spreads primarily through what? It basically spreads primarily through direct contact with the infected bodily fluids. That is the main reason. So as I told you, it can be direct contact, blood, infected persons or animals can create. The wild animals, that is the fruit bats, they are the naturally ones who are passing on this virus to human beings as well. Question number 2, a little difficult level if you see. Consider the following statements regarding Ebola virus disease. Ebola virus belongs to the family of 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏. Fruit bats are considered the natural reservoir hosts of Ebola virus. Ebola spreads primarily through airborne transmission over long distances. The first Ebola outbreak was identified near Ebola river, in Congo, right? In Congo. So, which of the statements are correct? So, the options are statement 1, 2 and 4, 1 and 3, 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So, if you look at the solution, statement 3 is wrong, right? Statement 3 is wrong. Therefore, our option will be 1, 2 and 4. Why? Ebola does not spread through airborne transmission. Ebola, as I told you, it spreads through direct contact, where the bodily fluids can be the main reason. Any direct contact can also create the problem, right? So, statement 1 is correct, 2 are correct, 4 also correct. So, when we are preparing for exam, we need to be familiar with some little details like this. So, I have given here explanation also, the scientific name as well of the virus. So, you need to be familiar with this. Okay. So, the question, next one. Which of the following diseases is caused by a virus belonging to the family of 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏, right? So, if you look at this one, the same virus family, what other disease can it cause? Like we have a Nipah virus, Marburg, dengue, chikungunya. So, the correct answer would be this one, Marburg, right? So, the Marburg virus, this disease is also part of the same family. So, if you see here, both Ebola and Marburg virus disease are caused by the virus of the 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏 family, that is the scientific name. So, you also be familiar with this name. So, from exam perspective, this kind of questions can be asked, if a little difficult level they give, because recently this Marburg virus outbreak was also reported in news. So, from science and tech perspective, this kind of topics, हमें थोड़ा सा ध्यान में रखने से easy होगा. So, I have given here the quick facts, the family, the genre, the diseases, what are the diseases, this we need to be familiar. Clear? So, now for any state level exams, APSC, UPSC, ADRE, SI, banking, SSC, any type of exam, if you are planning to prepare, you can contact BhadraIASAcademy at 8638391721. Okay. So, we will come out with more topics for discussion and more topics for study. Till then, you follow the topics and prepare yourself for the exams. Thank you.